Welcome to Jersey's Best Podcast, your weekly deep dive into everything that makes New Jersey spectacular, bizarre, beautiful, sometimes annoying, but always the best. My name is Jeremy Schneider. I'm a food and culture reporter for NJ.com and the Star-Ledger, and I'm also your host. Your weekly reminder to send episode suggestions, guest ideas, and questions to us at jersey'sbestpodcast@gmail.com and follow us at Jersey's Best Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky. This week, Jersey's Best Podcast is getting politically corrupt. Because if there's one thing New Jersey is known for other than beautiful beaches, bagels, and Bruce Springsteen, it's bad politicians. Look, here on Jersey's Best Podcast, we make it our mission to fight against the inaccurate and offensive stereotypes that plague our great state. We aren't the armpit of America, nobody says joisey, and we don't act like the cast of Jersey Shore. But that whole thing about New Jersey politicians being completely crooked, yeah, they kind of got that one right. New Jersey's history of political corruption is so rich and expansive that it has inspired Emmy-winning television shows, Oscar-nominated films, and countless embarrassing national headlines. We had a mayor that turned an $8,000 salary into a $1 million net worth with a desk drawer designed specifically for bribes. We had an assemblyman that went into witness protection, committed crimes while in it, and then faked his own death via scuba accident. We had a senator who became the first sitting member of Congress convicted of conspiracy to act as a foreign agent and literally accepted gold bar bribes. Not even subtle, my guy. New Jersey has a rich and illustrious history of political wrongdoing, so much that you could make an entire museum dedicated to the subject. We talked to some politicians, but they all asked for handouts and kickbacks to make it happen. So instead, we're just doing a podcast episode about it. This is the New Jersey Corrupt Politician Hall of Fame, or shame. The best at being the worst, the hilariously crooked, the obviously corrupt. Joining me today to induct the inaugural class. Inaugural. Arsonist, oddly shaped feet. Joining me today to induct the inaugural class into the NJ Politics Hall of Shame is Sean Sullivan, a senior reporter with NJ.com specializing in justice issues, investigative reporting, and award-winning TikToks. Sean, welcome back to Jersey's Best Podcast.
Thank you for having me back. I'm very honored that you invited me back, and frankly surprised that I was allowed to do your second appearance and that you haven't already been driven off the internet by Barstool Sports fans or canceled because of your bad opinions. So I'm really happy to see you flourish as a journalist. They
keep trying to cancel me, but I'm cancel proof. I'm foolproof. Just kidding.
Happy to ride your coattails.
Oh, that's. Vice versa, my guy. I've seen the million views you get on your TikToks and stuff. The very informative, dad core explanations of the happenings in New Jersey politics, which I love. Sean, we previously had you on to talk about New Jersey's most embarrassing moments. Now we're talking about corrupt politicians. Starting to sense a theme here. We have you on for the dirty work, for the embarrassing stuff.
I'm often the bearer of bad news.
I feel like you're uniquely equipped to answer this question. I mean that in the best way possible. The New Jersey corruption stereotype is true. Corruption is rampant in New Jersey. It has been for the history of the state. It is now in 2025. Is there a reason that New Jersey is so susceptible to corruption, why it thrives here?
Partly, I think it's a numbers game. You know, we're the most densely populated. And the other thing is just the sort of municipal madness. We have 565 municipalities. And so you just have so many piggy banks that people can stick their hands in. And then you also have the sort of cultural, you know, we are a culture of strivers with chips on our shoulders. And so we are often trying to kind of prove stuff, maybe looking to use a little elbow grease to get stuff through. So, you know, there's definitely something I think in our personality that, you know, wants things to be a little bit more efficient than the rules allow.
So we're just corrupt in our nature as New Jerseyans.
Yes. But you also have to think about, like, corruption is, in a way, corruption is at the heart of politics. Corruption isn't a crime, for starters.
What is, okay,
Sure.
For the layman, I'm the layman. What is corruption? I looked at the dictionary for this episode, but I want to hear from a corruption expert like yourself.
Corruption is a state of mind, and corruption is in the eye of the beholder, because corruption, as I said, corruption isn't a crime. Bribery is a crime. Official misconduct is a crime. And official misconduct is usually what we think of when we associate it with corruption. That's using your official position for personal benefit. And in order to prove that, you need to prove something called quid pro quo. This for that. I learned this by sitting through Bob Menendez's federal trial.
He's going to come up.
And that is a very difficult thing to prove. And politics itself is transactional. And so it's very difficult, actually, to distinguish between a criminal conspiracy and a well-oiled political machine.
Yeah, I think that's very well said, because one person's corruption is another person's effective politician, right?
Yes, politics by its nature is transactional. It's I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to compromise. It's also it's subterfuge. We're going to do this to make the other guy look bad. And so it eventually can cross the line. Also, politicians are political donations are a form of corruption, right? And what's the difference between taking a bribe, where I bribe you, Jeremy, and I say, okay, Jeremy, I'm giving you this money so that you vote for my pizza place.
That doesn't happen. For the record, that doesn't happen. I love it so much. People are like, oh, who paid for this list? NJ.com paid for this list. We pay for every food item that we consume for these stories. So
I hit a rough nerve.
You very much did. No, because we just did the pizza list, and so many people were like, who paid for this? NJ.com paid for this. NJ Advanced Media paid for this. I am not corrupt. I'm not a crook.
But imagine if the Domino's Corporation were a longtime advertiser of NJ.com, and somehow in the state of New Jersey they were always in the top 10. That's very often what you see in politics is quid pro quo is the thing that is a crime. You'll go to jail for that. But it is completely illegal if you're a rich weirdo to keep a politician on retainer. Just say, okay, well, Bob Menendez, I like how you vote generally. You vote in my favor, so I'm just going to keep donating to you, and I bet you're going to keep voting that way. It's a very difficult line to draw. And then, as we'll get into, there can be very corrupt politicians who are very popular with their constituencies.
That's in my research for this episode. Corruption does not mean you're not popular. Corruption does not mean you're not successful. There are multiple Hall of Famers today who had very successful political careers, and even though they're known for being corrupt, and some of them spent time in jail, some of them, when they got out of jail, were met with cheering crowds.
Because they got the roads paved. They filled the potholes. That goes a long way. You'd be surprised.
One word you mentioned that I still don't think I fully understand: political machine. And this comes up all the time. Like, oh, they're just like a cog in the machine, the political machine. What the hell is a political machine?
Yeah, so a political machine is basically it's kind of filling a role. It's creating infrastructure for the machinations of politics, because voting is democratic, right? We have all these people who vote one, but most of the voters are checked out, and so you do need people to run the parties, right? Who kind of decide who the candidates are going to be, right? Because it's not like we're not voting like American Idol to pick our politicians like between this like field.
In 2025, we might be.
But there is a narrowing down, and so those a political machine could be a local Democratic organization in Hudson County. That's an example that'll come up a lot, and that could mean having lieutenants who are in charge of drumming up votes, making sure that people have transportation to get to the polls. Like, this can be very good stuff. Making sure that that everybody who is eligible to vote gets out there and votes by any means necessary. And where machines get a bad name is where they start to kind of industrialize corruption, where when all of this becomes too kind of mechanized, then there's too much opportunity for someone to kind of take a little bit off the top, or somebody to kind of exert influence, or we had a huge controversy in the last year or so about New Jersey's ballot design, and that the machines were that was basically where people were saying, well, no, these guys are exerting too much influence. We let them pick the guys that we vote on, but they're putting their thumb on the scales too much.
Well, I think it becomes one of the root issues in not just New Jersey politics, but American politics, that politicians are more interested in maintaining power than actually changing anything, right?
I think that's kind of at the heart of the rot in American politics right now, is that we're losing a little bit of like the charm that some of these older politicians have, where it's like they got stuff done. They also got stuff done. That's a big that like people will overlook if you're taking a little bit off the top if you are doing a good job.
Yeah, make people happy. You got to keep the right pockets lined, I guess. That's what it comes down to, and keep your constituents like, hey, that guy clearly is taking some off the top, but I got my roads paved. My school is good. I like some politicians that made sure even during the Great Depression that people were getting food and healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. Sean, the votes are in, the judges have been paid off, and at least one inductee thought their statue was actually a gold bar and that we were bribing them. We weren't. We have 3 categories of Hall of Famer today. Founding Fathers, real throwbacks who helped New Jersey earn its corrupt reputation. Corruption Classics, the best of the best. And modern marvels who have earned a spot in our Hall of Fame even though their corruption has come in recent years. Sean, you ready to get dirty?
I was born for this.
In the Founding Fathers category, the first inductee into the New Jersey Corrupt Politics Hall of Fame /shame, Jersey City Mayor Frank Hague.
Frank Hague is somebody I've been studying recently because partly because of what I talked about earlier is that he was a machine politician, the father of all machine politicians in New Jersey at least. You'll hear a lot. If you remember ever seen Gangs of New York, the Tammany Hall, that was
that's the era that he was.
That era. He was across the Hudson River doing this in Jersey City, and you alluded up top to the drawer. The famous,
the one.
He's the one with the famous desk that you had a little drawer, and you could put the bribe in and slide it across, and he could kind of open it up, and then nobody's hands would be on the table.
Literally under the table.
Yeah, and if you go to the Jersey City, room in the Jersey City Library, you can find a ballot box that he allegedly was involved in stuffing. That was another big thing back then. In our research, we were reading some of this, and I found some of the reference material talking about how back in the day, the ballot stuffing was common, and brawls would happen at these, at the polling places, but they used clubs and not guns, and that's what makes for simpler times, I guess.
He was the mayor of Jersey City for 30 years. Like that's insanity. We talked about him in our Jersey City episode. He got so many things done. He got so many different, whether it was Roosevelt Stadium, whether it was Route 139, whether it was all the things that got built during his time as mayor. But he also, and during the Depression, he made sure that they were still getting food delivered. There was still health care available. But he was making $8,000 a year, and by the time when he died, he was worth millions. It's like something's not adding up here. There might be some corruption.
Yeah, and if you can look this up, he had a pretty friendly relationship with FDR, who is another guy who's kind of been whitewashed historically as this progressive reformer, also kind of a despot and very corrupt, and protected him from prosecutions. At one point the U.S. Postmaster General was sniffing around because Hague's people were reading his opponent's mail, and
not supposed to do that.
There's, according to the historical record, FDR got involved and was like, leave this guy alone. So this goes to the highest levels of government, and this was a guy who was the mayor of Jersey City.
That's not, well, it's not like he was the mayor of New York. It wasn't like he was a state senator and he was homies with FDR.
But he'll get you 100,000 votes if you need it.
Yeah, one thing I read that I really enjoyed, he made each of his political fights, even the small ones, into these big dramatic battles, which he then vividly presented to the voters. He would meet with giant groups all the time. He made sure the media knew what was happening. He was a darling in the headlines. They called him Boss Frank Hague for a reason. If they call you boss, you're doing something right / wrong.
Yeah. I think it's a term of endearment. It is also, I think, a term of fear, and I think that it's still a term to this day that some politicians wear proudly.
Frank Hague, you are the first inductee. Congratulations. The next inductee in the Founding Fathers category, Enoch Nucky Johnson, who was the inspiration for Nucky Thompson on Boardwalk Empire. He was a former Republican county sheriff and political boss. He ran Atlantic City during Prohibition, which, of all the Jersey people on this list, Nucky Johnson, just Jersey as hell, which I admire.
Yeah, I mean, the Atlantic City looms large in the imagination when it comes to corruption, and especially during Prohibition. I mean, you think things are ridiculous in the like Scorsese '70s era. Probably the Roaring '20s was pretty nuts.
He hosted the Atlantic City Conference in 1929, which was a meeting of national organized crime leaders, including Al Capone. There's a picture of Nucky Johnson with Al Capone walking in Atlantic City around this time. Some of the validity is questioned. I don't think we're going to get to the bottom of that now, but it's a really cool story. One theme that you're going to see on this list, Nucky Johnson, he did spend 10 years in jail for tax evasion. But anyone that can inspire an HBO show has a spot in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and I think this is like an early sign of what is to come. You will see a lot of overlap if you study the lives of politicians and you study the lives of mobsters. You see a lot of overlap, in fact, that some of them are the same guy. And there is a certain element of political bossism and organized crime. It's a very similar way to run an operation because a lot of this stuff is done with a wink and a nod. You're giving orders to lieutenants sort of implicitly, and they are carrying out your wish so that you can be like, I don't know about that.
Plausible deniability. I'm really seeing a theme here with HBO shows, the great ones, Boardwalk Empire, Sopranos, The Wire, just political corruption in general, and it's kind of like you have two sides of the sword, or two sides of the coin. Sword. What am I talking about? We're gonna cut that. It's like Omar said. I have the shotgun. You have the briefcase. Nucky Johnson, not the most famous HBO character from Inspired by New Jersey. That would be Tony Soprano, but we love you very much regardless. The next inductee is we kind of got a team situation here. I think in the NBA, they or not the NBA, in the Basketball Hall of Fame, they induct whole teams sometimes. This one's a joint effort that also inspired some very interesting media. U.S. Senator Harrison Williams, U.S. Representative Frank Thompson, and State Senator and Camden Mayor Angelo Ericetti. Angelo Ericetti. They were all part of a giant FBI scam operation called Abscam, and this was the inspiration for the David O. Russell film American Hustle.
Yeah, not my favorite, not my favorite Jersey film, but certainly a great entry in there. And I think does it's a fictionalized version, but I think does a pretty good job of the broad strokes of this. This was a weird case involving it's one of those things. The politicians look bad, but you also look back in retrospect, and it makes the FBI look pretty weird.
I was gonna say these sting operations where the honeypots, we know that a politician is ripe for getting caught for having their hand out, and that's what happened here. It was also called Abscam, which was an amalgamation of Arab scam, which was considered offensive even at the time, I think. And this was in the 70s, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, the FBI created a fake company and then pretended to be Arab sheikhs and other Arab officiates to basically throw money at Jersey politicians who were happy to give money to whatever rich weirdos from all over the world. And so this was an early case of the entrapment question, which you'll see throughout politics and contemporary more recently. You'll see cases get thrown out over this, which is the question of whether would the person have committed a crime if not put in the ridiculous scenario in which the FBI has put them in. It's an interesting question.
And it says something about New Jersey politics that it's so corrupt that the FBI is like, oh, we can get them for this one.
Yeah, but this is another one that it really started as something I think it was involving corrupt businessmen, and then it just kept pulling string.
Moving on to the next category, we're talking corruption classics. These are some of the titans of the game, some of the best of the best, the most corrupt of the most corrupt. And the first one in this category is a true New Jersey politics legend who once called the Star Ledger the Star Liar, I believe, more than once maybe. Sharp James, state senator and mayor of Newark. He was the mayor of Newark for 20 years. Incredibly popular, but eventually faced 33 federal charges, namely mail fraud and conspiracy, and spent 18 months in prison. Yet when he got out of jail, heroes
welcome.
Yep. What can you tell us about Sharp James?
Sharp James is a really interesting character, and I think, and when we were trying to figure out the metrics for who we would include on here, it's like he definitely wasn't the most corrupt in terms of numbers, but just the I think represents the sort of brazenness of the corrupt Jersey politician. I think he kind of encapsulates what we're talking about here. This was a guy who was extremely charismatic, came up, he was born in Florida but came up in the Newark community, very much of his community, represented Newark's black population, so representing a culture and a population that is being ignored by not being treated well by the mainstream media, not being treated well by mainstream politicians, and so much like Frank Hague, these ethnic enclaves often breed very talented politicians, and so he became like kind of a star and really looked out for his people. That was, I think, creating an environment in Newark where where there was a social safety net and people had resources and stuff like that. And they returned it by loving him, even though he liked to take a little bit off the top.
So what caught him up specifically? Was it that his girlfriend, he helped his girlfriend buy 9 city-owned properties at a low price, and then they flipped them for like a $600,000 profit or something? Yeah,
that's what took him down towards the end of his career. I mean, he was sort of going back to the 1990s, was dogged by various corruption allegations. I mean, this the sort of stuff you'll see in any municipal political race. James really kind of was able to swat away a lot of corruption allegations over the years. But, then we had Cory Booker, now the U.S. Senator, running against him. You can see the documentary Street Fight about the first race between the two of them, which Booker actually lost. But there were cracks in his armor. And, it was Chris Christie, who was then U.S. Attorney.
He might come up.
Yeah, who brought the charges against James that really stuck, and he was accused and convicted of getting his girlfriend, helping his girlfriend buy properties. She had no real estate experience. Buy up these blighted properties in Newark and flip them for way more than what they were worth. And so that's a sort of, like I said, it's kind of small potatoes corruption. But James was a larger than life character, kind of unrepentant about this stuff. Like he famously, he was another like a mayor who did not have a huge salary, but he had a vacation home. He had a boat. When people would ask him about it, he would say, "Well, what, a black man can't have a boat?" And so this was a guy who was like, "I'm gonna get my bag," it was effective messaging for a population that didn't trust the media that was pointing out his corruption. And so that's why you mentioned the epithet, the star liar. I don't know that he invented that, but he certainly made it stick.
We should put that on a shirt. Just kidding. But you have this in the notes. An interesting term for this. A politician who's corrupt but nonetheless very, very popular. The Whitey Bulger effect.
Yeah. I referred to that earlier. The mob overlap. Whitey Bulger was a mobster in Boston and was very popular in his community. The mobsters were they knew that to leave the civilians alone, to help to buy the old ladies the groceries, to pay for the kid down the street who's got his dad's out of work, so pay for his education. Acts of charity that engender goodwill in the vulnerable populations to kind of create a populist profile, and you'll see that with Sharp James. You see that with modern politicians. Brian Stack in Hudson County, not accusing him of any crimes.
Is he on this list?
Not accused of wrongdoing, but an effective retail politician who gets does like turkey drives, sends people mail on their birthday. That's a machine politics. Like I said, it's a highly effective a form of getting a real base behind you.
To quote Cat Williams, 19 felonies, no convictions. Oh, man. We're moving on to, I think, my favorite person on this list, and I think your favorite too, in the corruption classics, Hudson County Assemblyman and State Senator David Friedland. I don't think he's not the biggest politician on this list by any stretch, but he might have the most ridiculous story. What can you tell us about David Friedland?
Truly a man ahead of his time. David Friedland was a Hudson County Assemblyman and state senator for around 15 years. Starting in the 1970s, he already kind of had the whiff of corruption on him. He was basically dinged when he was an assemblyman by a judicial ethics committee that found he took bribes to help a mafia loan shark make an inconvenient criminal prosecution go away. So he was not criminally convicted. This is like a judicial ethics panel going, no, you shouldn't do that. And so that's the 1970s. By 1980, Friedland and his father get convicted for taking kickbacks for helping the Teamsters Union get $4 million of loans approved.
This guy's so Jersey. Man, David Friedland, thank you for your corrupt service.
So once again, corruption's not a crime. So what he actually gets pinched for is tax evasion and obstruction of justice, because the cover-up is always worse than the crime. These guys always get screwed for the cover-up. And so he does what a lot of these guys do, and he flips state's witness. He says, well, you got me.
Turn snitch.
You got me. I'll wear a wire. I'll get you some bigger fish. Go easy on me. And so he goes and does that. And while he is out looking for bigger fish, he fakes his own death in a scuba accident.
The fish thing just went from loan sharks to real sharks.
Yeah, so what happened, this is from the New York Times. Mr. Friedland purportedly disappeared while driving with a friend off Memory Rock, about 12 miles off the western end of Grand Bahama Island. Mr. Friedland, an expert skin diver, maintained a Bahamian home in Freeport. The man who was with Mr. Friedland on a boating trip on September 2nd told authorities that Mr. Friedland had failed to surface after taking some painkillers and going for a dive.
How convenient.
So then he goes on the lam using the alias Richard Smith Harley and he goes full Carmen Sandiego. Like he's like the U.S. Marshal's most wanted fugitive. He's in Kenya, he's in France, he's in Italy, he's in Hong Kong. They eventually find him in the Maldives, where he's working as a scuba instructor. And we have a photo, which we'll share on the socials, where he poses for a postcard feeding a shark. And that's where they found him.
My dude leaning into the bit so hard. Like,
yeah. So he eventually they find him in the Maldives, and he goes to prison for going on the lam. He eventually got out of prison, retired to Florida, died in 2022. Before he died, I did write him a letter because I wanted to tell his life story, and he did not reply.
That should be a movie. It's like Catch Me If You Can, but with scuba diving.
Yes.
Like, what is going on? Like, I just love that he's like, I love money and I love the ocean. Like, that's. You know what scuba stands for? This is completely separate from.
I do not know that, actually.
Self-contained underwater breathing apparatus, which has nothing to do with the podcast, but I had to say it. All right. David Friedland, you're the most ridiculous member of the Hall of Fame, I think. There's one person that you didn't have in your notes, but I had to put in the notes because I'm not saying they're in the Hall of Fame, but I feel like if we're having a Hall of Fame discussion, they need to be mentioned. Is Chris Christie in the Corruption Hall of Fame?
Chris Christie has not been charged with a crime. But Bridgegate is a very interesting case study in the corruption question, because many people don't realize this because it happened during the pandemic. In 2020, the U.S. Supreme Court took up the Bridgegate case and basically said, everybody got away with it. They said that basically on a technicality that isn't worth getting into, they threw out the federal corruption convictions of David Wildstein, Bridget Kelly, Bill Baroni. Those are the people who actually were convicted in the Bridgegate scandal. Chris Christie was never charged with a crime. Of course, there was testimony during the Bridgegate trials that he knew. And there are individuals. I think the three people I just listed will all tell you that he knew. But he, famously hired a outside law firm to investigate. This is called it's called the Mastro investigation, and it's one of those situations where the government investigates itself, and lo and behold, we cleared ourselves.
We're good.
So,
shocker.
So Chris Christie is a very interesting figure because he belongs in the Hall of Fame on both sides, because he was the U.S. attorney in a lot of these cases. Our colleague Ted Sherman wrote a book, the very good book called The Jersey Sting, about the day in New Jersey in 2008-2009 where everybody got arrested. 40 people, including rabbis and mayors and assemblymen, in like this far-reaching corruption investigation involving this guy Solomon Dweck. You can read about it in The Jersey Sting, Ted Sherman's book, which tells it better than I did. But that was Chris Christie's case, right? And so this guy, he made his name as a federal prosecutor who went after corrupt politicians, and then once he got into office, he kind of started using some of the same techniques that he was using against, in his investigations to find out stuff about people he didn't like.
So if he did go to jail, it'd kind of be like, oh, like it's like if Batman gets arrested, like he's locked in there with a bunch of people that he got put in there.
Yeah, but we've been in this business long enough to see this a lot of times now.
Yeah.
I mean, Rudy Giuliani, another one that you'll see. Rudy Giuliani made his name prosecuting the mob.
Man.
So very, very often these Hall of Famers end up on both sides of the fence.
And I mean, the Bridgegate thing is just such an obvious example of. It's funny that would have been what might have got him tripped up, because it's just like it was so petty. It was just so the whole thing was that the mayor of Fort Lee
would not endorse
him. So I'm gonna cause traffic in your town. Insanity. Also, we call it Bridgegate. If this had happened in San Francisco, would it have been Golden Gate Gate?
Ooh.
Also, I don't know if this is even corruption or not. Maybe it's just stupidity. But the whole Island Beach State Park thing—that's not corruption.
But I think it does belie a certain attitude. So what Jeremy's referencing there is when we were in a state government shutdown, similar to the federal shutdown.
Right now.
Yeah, and what happened was Christie was feuding with the Democrats in the legislature. The government shuts down because they can't agree to a budget. State resources are all closed, but Andy Mills, our intrepid photographer, gets a tip and gets up in a Cessna airplane and finds out that Chris Christie is lounging on the beach that should be closed because that nobody else can go to because the state government shut down. There's certainly an attitude, that an entitlement attitude that you see with a lot of politicians. Certainly with Sharp James, who was somebody who was a rival to Chris Christie. Mm-hmm. Like there was a time in New Jersey where those men, it was like Batman and the Joker.
You complete me politically.
And there's really an argument to be made over who's which one.
Yeah, man. I mean, you said this in the notes. This Bridgegate and I guess Island Beach State Park Gate, whatever, kind of represents the post-consequences era of American politics. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Because Bridgegate, everybody got away with it. And closing a bridge for political retribution at this, that's like small potatoes these days.
Oh God, I mean, 2025. Moving on to the final category, modern marvels. We're talking about politicians who are corrupt. I guess we're talking about some contemporary guys and gals, but this is really happening right now or very recently. A name that, I mean, if you're gonna do the Corruption Hall of Fame, you cannot not mention this guy, Bob Menendez, aka Bobby Goldbars, who. The more you read about this guy, the more he feels like a Parks and Rec character, or just like you're corrupt. Like he accepted gold bars as bribes from was it Kuwaiti?
No, Egyptian.
Okay. Let's. I don't want to have that even on the record. So, Bobby Goldbars. First of all, I mean, I mentioned this at the top. Let me make sure I get this right. He is the first sitting member of Congress convicted of conspiracy to act as a foreign agent. And he was bribed by gold bars from Egyptian representatives.
I'm sorry. Can we do this again? Take this again.
Got it right.
Actually, the gold bars did not come from.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember where the gold
all
bars
right,
came from.
Okay. So James, sorry for all the back and forth, but we're gonna get this right. Bobby Goldbars, Bob Menendez was the first sitting member of Congress convicted of conspiracy to act as a foreign agent. That's insanity. What happened there?
So I actually got to cover this trial. It happened in a federal courthouse in Manhattan, and so I had to take the bus every day and surrender my phone. And so I don't think I've ever paid attention to something quite so intently as
I remember this. This was fun.
Studying Bob Menendez in that courtroom. And what he was accused of was basically him and his wife freelance consulting for the government of Egypt and an Egyptian businessman who was trying to set up a halal meat inspection business and was looking to get government contracts from the Egyptian government. And so Bob was the first sitting member of Congress charged with acting as a foreign agent because he was freelance consulting the government for the government of Egypt.
That sounds illegal. It sounds like a bad idea. Conflict of interest, maybe?
Maybe, yeah. And Bob's defense with a lot of this stuff was that his wife, who was also convicted in a separate trial, was arranging a lot of this stuff. She set up her own consulting firm. I mean, this is textbook political stuff. Like the wife of a senator sets up a consulting firm. What is she consulting people on? How to get stuff done in Washington.
Yeah. Sounds effective.
She has unique insight as the wife of a senator. And so this was a very unique. I mean, we found out about it when they raided the FBI raided his house,
and they found gold bars. So cool. Just so like some real Goodfellas shit. But you're a politician.
Yeah. Plus
amazing.
like nearly $500,000 in cash all over the home, and so
Yeah,
I got
just
to actually see $100,000 in a sack, which looks somewhere between I think I wrote a light load of laundry and a good haul of Halloween candy.
I love that you saw that, and I love that this happens in New Jersey. Like this is movie shit. This is just blatant, brazen corruption. I mean, like, oh, you're hiding in your house. You're gonna get like this is eventually gonna come back to bite you. And Bobby Goldbars is just such a good nickname. And like he's the best part is I mean, I feel like this is a running theme, but like. He just very adamant that he's done nothing wrong, right?
Yes,
he just
and in fact, this was his second federal corruption trial. This was after the first federal corruption trial in Newark, where he was accused of basically helping his rich friend from Florida. His rich friend's young model girlfriends get visas and other immigration help and stuff like that. And he didn't deny that he was doing this kind of advocating for his buddy down in Florida, but basically he just said, well, that's what I do as a senator. Not a senator from Florida, but that didn't seem material to him.
Bobby Goldbars, thanks for giving us a reason to put you in the Hall of Fame. Your statue is not made of gold. We are not bribing you. We have one more candidate, one more entry for the Hall of Fame. Before I'm gonna give you a little runway to mention some runners up, because I know you have a long list of corrupt politicians we couldn't even get to today. What can you tell me about Essex County Executive James Treffiger?
Okay, if we're gonna do this one, I'm gonna have to do a little bit
of. Should we skip this one?
Yeah, if you might want to skip.
Okay,
this one,
all right. So should we just end on? I mean, okay. Here's what we're gonna do, James. We're gonna cut all that. Bob Menendez, you are the lone entrant in the Modern Marvels category because you're that good. You're the Tom Brady of corruption, as far as I'm concerned. Sean, when we prep for this podcast, you told me you had so many people that couldn't even make the cut. If we're gonna, who do we miss? Who should listeners know about? Who did the also rans, the not quite made the Hall of Fame type people?
I'm gonna do kind of like a little bit of a speed run here. Off the top of my dome, there's Joey Torres in Patterson. This is old school corruption. A couple of years ago, Mayor Patterson convicted of using DPW workers just to work around his house. Just a real classic in the genre. Then gets convicted, tries to run again for mayor, apparently unaware of a state law that bars people with criminal convictions for running for office. So then gets into legal trouble because he's running for mayor as a convict. That's in Patterson. Then we've got Sal Bonacorso in Clark, a Republican mayor, close to my heart personally, because me and our colleague Riley Yates wrote about his racist tirades that were caught on tape. So he got in trouble for saying racist stuff, which we were able to expose him for. What we didn't know at the time was that he was also allegedly using local government resources for his tank removal and landscaping company, literally like sending stuff on mayoral letterhead. And so that's what got him pinched. He didn't lose his job because he said a bunch of racist stuff. He lost his job because he was accused of doing landscaping work with mayor letterhead.
We talked about this a little bit. Assemblywoman Linda
Stender, yes.
Linda Stender. Hurricane Sandy was obviously a tragedy, and they had a home that was damaged in Sandy. What was her strategy, or her husband's strategy for getting it rebuilt? Yeah,
so this was an assemblywoman back in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy. Her husband was accused of asking Habitat for Humanity to rebuild their beach home. And so this is another great example of a person with political connections trying to steer stuff allegedly to the detriment of Hurricane Sandy victims.
Sore subject. I just love that I can say, hey, Sean, tell me about some corrupt politicians. And you go Will Ferrell in old school. It's like blackout. And it's like, this person did this person did that, blah, 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 blah. No, you just...
I'm going to be driving home today going, oh, I forgot about this one.
Well, we'll do maybe we'll do a second episode with the second class into the Hall of Fame. There you have it, though. That's the first class, the inaugural class of the New Jersey Corrupt Politician Hall of Fame /shame. Sean, this was a lot of fun. Before we let you go, though, you know the drill. We got to run you through the Garden State Gauntlet Corruption Edition. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Who's the most corrupt politician in New Jersey history?
I got to give this one to Haig just because the historical record is just so detailed, and he really just did it differently. Did it with panache.
What is the most corrupt city or town in New Jersey?
This one is got to be a toss-up between Paterson is tough, a lovely city full of great people, poorly served by leadership over the years, and currently I think half the city council is under indictment. Then also Edison. I don't think there's anything going on right now, but Edison, some of the ugliest municipal politics I've ever seen, and like a local police department where like people are firebombing each other if you go far enough back in the archives.
What is the single most corrupt controversy you've ever covered in New Jersey?
Oh, this is a tough one.
You've done some good ones.
There's the Menendez scandal. Oh man, I'm blanking. Let's see.
Blank check, which is what he wanted.
This one's a little dark, but prison sexual assault stuff. I don't want to go there. Sorry, I don't want to.
We'll cut that.
Hold on. Give me that one again.
Yeah. What is the single most corrupt controversy you've covered in New Jersey?
This is a really tough one. I mean, Menendez kind of takes the cake. Might be recency bias, but just the sheer numbers there are the stuff that I saw in a federal courthouse, duffel bags full of cash. I'd actually seen a gold bar in person before. So it might be that, Bridge, though I will say, I still have nightmares about Bridgegate. So those are kind of neck and neck.
Bridgegate, man. Is there any state that is as remotely corrupt as New Jersey?
I once took place in a debate. This is a real story. I took place in a debate with a journalist from Alabama and a journalist from Illinois. And with the three of us duked it out to see who was the most corrupt. And we ended up giving it to Alabama. And it was because the guy from Alabama was able to show that the legislature, the governor's office, and the judiciary were all corrupt. New Jersey, to its credit, so a lot of crooked judges, but the judiciary itself fairly well run. And so we lost to Alabama.
How do we stop corruption in New Jersey? Can we stop it?
I think we can. Part of it is by fixing the Open Public Records Act and allowing me access to all the lawmakers' emails. And then I think also just giving teeth back to the watchdogs. New Jersey has a comptroller and a state commission of investigation. These are both internal watchdogs that are supposed to be doing like good government stuff and do really good government investigations, and they find these are watchdogs paid by the government to tell you that what the government's doing wrong, and there is like a full-on war against them right now in Trenton. The politicians do not like these internal watchdog agencies, and they're actively looking to defang them.
Last question, Sean. If you were going to be corrupted, if someone was trying to bribe you, I know you are incorruptible. I know you are a staunch journalist with integrity, but if someone was going to corrupt you, how would they do it? What would they get you with? I mean, and I'm not talking money. Like, is there something specific they could? Is there like a candy or a thing that you would want that would corrupt you? I don't know if I'd candy. I'm a child. Give me all the Twizzlers, and I'll review whatever you want.
I gotta think about this.
Yes, fastball. This one came up to me while we were doing this.
How could I be bribed?
He can't be bribed. There we go. That's the answer. No, congratulations, you passed the test. Chris Kelly asked me to ask you that. Okay. You're good.
I passed the test, I guess.
There you go. I could easily be bribed, and everyone on the Instagram account thinks I am being bribed. I'm not. That's a wrap on this week's episode of Jersey's Best Podcast. I feel dirty all over talking about all this politics and this corruptness. Everybody vote! Election day is almost here. Sean, Always a blast having you here. Always great talking about morbid, depressing things in New Jersey. Where can people find you? Where can they read you, et cetera, et cetera?
You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at SPSULLIV, SP Sullivan. And if you are a Jersey politician, do not find me. I will find you. I will find you.
Thank you again, Sean. Thank you to our audio producer, James Shapiro, our video producer, Dwayne Uzaro, our executive producer, Bobby Olivier. Thank you to Schmutzadells for our incredibly catchy theme song. If you have questions, episode ideas, guest suggestions, anything of that nature, email us at jersey'sbestpodcast@gmail.com. Remember to like, subscribe, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. We are still a new podcast. We're a baby. We need your reviews. We need your 5 stars. And please consider subscribing to NJ.com. There's a link in our episode notes. New Jersey needs high-quality journalism, and our journalists need you. Tune in again next week for the latest episode of Jersey's Best Podcast. And remember, Jersey forever.